Warning. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect that of the HHN TV or its constituent entities. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, so everybody, let's pump our brakes here really quick for just a sec with the Las Vegas Raiders, because I know from the surface it can easily seem like the sky is falling in Vegas, but they are right now a 500 football team. They're not off to the best start in the world, but they're not off to the worst start in the world. And I know that people can look on the surface and see what's going on with Antonio Pierce and the things that he's had to say about athletes making business decisions on that team. I know people can look and say, well, he just got hit with the same sanctions basically that Jim Harbaugh just got hit from his time when he was at Arizona State with alleged recruiting violations during the no period during COVID and all that stuff. I know everybody can look and see what's going on with Davante Adams right now and go, look, man, the sky is falling. The team is not that good. The quarterback is this. The defense, look, let's just all pump our brakes because Vegas is still a 500 football team right now. They're 2-2. And for anybody criticizing Pierce for not wanting to talk about Davante Adams, let's be very clear that you better keep that same energy for when Bill Belichick did it. Remember the game in Kansas City on Monday night when they got their asses handed to them by the Chiefs? We're on to Cincinnati. Antonio Pierce, hey, man, we're thinking about the Denver game. No, we're just thinking about the Denver game. And we're not worried about nothing else, Brody. We are thinking about the Denver game. Look, whether Davante Adams was traded or not, wherever he's going to go is wherever he's going to go. Wherever he's going to end up is wherever he is going to end up. Is it potentially causing problems in the locker room? Is there maybe a locker room divided? Is he going to be playing top-notch football? The Davante Adams that we're used to seeing, that it doesn't matter if it's Jimmy G or whoever the hell, O'Donnell, anybody, throwing him that damn football and getting over 1,000 yards, we don't know. We don't know why he would necessarily really, truly want out of Vegas. Maybe he does want to go play with his buddy A.A. Ron. Maybe he does want to reunite with Derek Carr. We don't know, okay? We could talk about where Davante Adams should be, what he should do with his career, this and that and the third. Look, I'm going to say the same damn thing that I say every time situations like this come up. Number one, I'm not going to tell an athlete what to do with his career. I look at John Elway, I look at Bo Jackson, I've seen other athletes, Eli Manning, they do this. It's their career. Now, I'm not saying there's not risk-reward with it, but I'm saying it is their career. In terms of the best teams to be with, look, again, it is going to boil down to the same things that I always say it's going to boil down to. Whether or not they're able to get along with guys in the locker room, whether or not systematically they're going to fit. I mean, come on, man, you've got people running around saying, oh, the Jets can't be anything without Davante Adams. They need him to make this offense go. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be an MVP this season or not? Those exact same people said, I expect Aaron Rodgers to get back to MVP status. Meanwhile, they lost 10-9 to the Denver Broncos, who, by the way, didn't even throw for 100 yards in that football game. You know, the reality of the situation is it's constant with this picking and choosing and changing and this and that and the third. I remain the same. The consistencies are they going to work schematically and are they going to work in the locker room? That's it, folks. That's what it amounts to. Because if you get a Davante Adams, understand that you can't have a quarterback that is now going to use him as a crutch. There are situations like Odell Beckham Jr., where we saw him in Cleveland, and everybody talked about what a consummate professional Odell Beckham Jr. was and is. They all said he was great to be around. But coaching-wise, they wanted to make Odell Beckham Jr. the crutch for Baker Mayfield, and it didn't work out. I said that the Baltimore Ravens are a better football team without Mark Andrews. Look how well they were doing up until the AFC Championship game. Now, I know that they decided to throw it 82 times, or 82% of the time, which was stupid, just ridiculous. Last year, the Chiefs' defense was not that good. I think they were ranked 18th in the NFL. Deciding to throw it that much was ridiculous. The point of what I'm saying is he didn't have his crutch to lean on, and then all of a sudden Lamar had him, and then look how they tanked. Isaiah likely has been a much better tight end and a much better fit for the Baltimore Ravens than Andrews. It's the reality of it. Time marches on. Things move on. Look, no disrespect to what he's done, but what I am telling you is very simply this. Schematically, it just doesn't always work out. So wherever he goes, it's still going to have to be that same balance. You're going to have a coach that knows how to draw up the plays for this guy, and you're going to have a quarterback that goes, look, I know he's my first read, but if he's not there, I've still got to be able to look around the football field. I got to look at reads 2, 3, and 4. I got to look for my check down. None of that's available. I got to get the hell out of Dodge. I mean, this isn't quantum physics. It should be football 101, but these are things that happen. I think right now this is an overblown mess with the media and the Raiders, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not saying that it's not fair to ask Antonio Pierce the question. I'm not saying that it's not fair to ask Davante Adams a question. I'm not saying that it's not fair to ask, Davis with the Raiders that question. What I am saying is the way that it's talked about, the way that it's brought up, the I think, the I believe, the I know, the I this, the I that. Bro, people in the media are making this situation out to be about them when it's not. It's about the Raiders and Davante Adams and whatever team may choose to acquire him. That's what it amounts to. Are the Raiders going to be better or worse without him? After a while, you have that player, and it's not working out for whatever reason. But let's remember this. It hasn't worked out anywhere that Aaron and Davante Adams have been, especially apart from each other. And I'm not talking about in terms of stats or anything else. I'm talking about eventually they can't get along with coaches. They can't get along with guys in the locker room. They can't get along with trainers. They can't get along with anybody. This is not new. These are common denominators in every situation. And it is always these two. And I don't give a damn if they are friends. The NFL, the NBA, any of that stuff. I said it about LeBron. This is not about playing with your buddies. This is not schoolyard football. These teams are owned by people who cut checks. And those checks and the people who write them are the ultimate decision makers. Combined with the coaches, they decide what is best for their football team. Now, if an individual wants to decide what's best for an individual, that's one thing. But always deciding, well, I just want to play with my friends. Well, that's not how this works. Maybe you get lucky and maybe you get that chance. But I'm tired of Aaron and Davante Adams manipulating every situation that they're in so that way they can somehow circulate back to each other. It's old already, and I'm tired of it. And people are running around chastising Antonio Pierce, acting like he's a villain for some weird reason. That football team has not fallen apart. It's his job as a coach to get the most out of his guys. I'll give you that. Simultaneously, if players don't want to put up, then that's on them. And if they are being soft and making business decisions, why in the absolute hell do I want said individual on my team any damn way? I'm just saying. Ashton Genty, well, I tell you what, he's a hell of a running back. Everybody's talking about his stats. Everybody's talking about his numbers. Everybody's bringing up this and bringing up that, and that's all fine and dandy. Here's my problem with what's going on in college football, and it's been this way for years. The Heisman Trophy has essentially turned into a quarterback award, and I've talked about this on numerous occasions. And I honestly feel like he could rush for 10,000 yards, score 150 touchdowns, and they'd still find a way to give it to some quarterback that we all know is not going to end up being successful at the next level for this reason or that reason. Which, by the way, can we stop exclusively blaming football teams for the lack of success for quarterbacks? Can we just stop it? Tom Brady didn't walk into a great situation, folks. John Elway did not walk into a great situation. Okay? I need everybody to stop the cap. I'm not saying there's no responsibility on the football team. But when it comes to like a Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears did what they needed to do to put the pieces together. The defense and everybody else has held up their end of the bargain. Caleb Williams has not. And I don't give a damn about his 300-yard game. Winning is what matters. That's the only stat that matters, as a matter of fact. Speaking of which, they gave Caleb Williams a Heisman Trophy, and what did that football team accomplish? Was he ever a champion? I mean, geez, at least when they give it to 90% of the quarterbacks that they give it to, they end up being champions. Tim Tebow's been a champion and a Heisman Trophy winner. Joe Burrow's been a champion and a Heisman Trophy winner. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? For the most part, at least they're champions. Or their teams are very, very successful. They're competing for a championship. I'm just saying that I think the Heisman Trophy is to a point where I'm not sure if it matters anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jane Daniels deserved it, right? You have those rare quarterbacks that deserve it. And I think that's because anybody who looks at Jane Daniels, they understand what the Heisman Trophy is truly about. And that is the player that is the most important to their football team. That is ultimately what it means. Jane Daniels was the most important piece of the puzzle with the Tigers. If LSU doesn't have him, they are a 500 football team last season and probably the year before. He was a true difference maker. And you have to ask yourself that right now. Look, it's still really early in the season. That's the other thing. Genty's got incredible numbers to this point. But we don't know if they're going to be able to find that balance and how good the coaching is going to be in terms of, okay, if running the football is going to be my number one thing, I know other teams are going to start loading the box. I know they're going to start planning for this. What are some other creative ways that I can get this guy the football? So I hope Boise State has some things in their back pocket. You know, any team that is one-dimensional, it's dangerous. Now, I love the running game more than anybody, and I'm consistently talking about how running backs are still a necessity in today's football, whether anybody likes it or not. I said last year that Audric Estime, to me, was the MVP of Notre Dame. I thought Bucky Irving, to me, was the true MVP in that offensive line at Oregon. Right now, he's the MVP at Boise State as Genty, but here's the thing. You're going to have a quarterback that at some point is going to have to be a quarterback. And there are quarterbacks out there that once you force them and you make them win a football game, they are not good enough to carry their team. Now, we've already seen that one time at Boise State, haven't we already this season? So even if he puts up all the numbers, even if he puts up all the stats, even if he's the best player on his team, will it even really matter to voters come the end season? Who was the last running back to win a Heisman? Was it Reggie? I'll have to double check on that, but I think it was Reggie, and that's been some time ago. You know, it used to be guys like Charles Woodson had a chance to win the Heisman. Guys like Desmond Howard had a chance to win the Heisman. Ron Dane had a chance to win the Heisman. Everybody had a legitimate shot at winning the Heisman. Half the time now, you get this Heisman, the thing in New York, and it's, 4 quarterbacks and then a random. It gets old really quick. I hope voters are really, truly watching the games. Because I don't feel like they've been doing that for the last couple of years with the college football playoff. I feel like that pretty much ended right around 2020. I used to justify that committee every single season. Now, not so much. I don't know how much more I can justify the Heisman Committee. Hell of a running back. We'll see what he does the rest of the season. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Boise State potentially being the team that could get in that's from the outside of the Power Four, right? UNLV, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later. They got Syracuse tonight, so we're going to be getting into that. But regardless, the point is this. The Heisman, I think, maybe is to a point where maybe we need to change the name. I mean, even though there's already a quarterback award, it gets to a point where I don't know that it's truly a Heisman Trophy 90% of the time anymore. I think it's just whatever quarterback has the best stats. Oh, this guy threw for 4,000 yards. Heisman. Oh, wait, I got a guy who threw for 4,001 yards. Give it to him. See what I'm saying? It'd be like that. Whatever, man. You know, Crawford has come out and he said that Conor McGregor called him. They were trying to iron out a 2-fight deal. And supposedly Crawford has already admitted in saying, look, I wasn't going to step foot inside the cage. Now, whatever his reason may be, whether it was, the elbows and all that stuff that he talked about, whatever his reason may be, number one, it's not a good look for Crawford. I mean, it's been few and far in between that Conor has looked good. But even then, I don't necessarily know that this is about Conor looking good as opposed to MMA looking good, because we're seeing it more and more, obviously, right, where MMA fighters are stepping out and they're going into the boxing ring. But I think we also need to stop pretending that boxers have not gone into MMA. I mean, Holly Holm, what was she, 33-2 as a boxer before she decided to step foot in the cage? I know you know who Ray Mercer is. So let's get that out of the way. We know who Ray Mercer was. He was a boxer. He ended up doing kickboxing and other things. Clarissa Shields, you ever heard of her? She went from boxing to MMA. She hasn't been great in Bellator, a.k.a. PFL, but she's won a couple of fights over there. Donald Cerrone, what do you have, 38 fights? And now he's a UFC Hall of Famer. I know that it's few and far in between. It can be done. The point of what I'm saying is this, which, real quick here, side note, Exhibit's coming out with an album under Conor's record label. Look, man, I love X to the Z, one of my favorite rappers of all time, severely underrated. Best of Things is a hard-ass joint, but damn, bro, I'd probably say let it go, but it is what it is. Moving on, the point is very simple, all right? The reality is, not only does MMA look better now because of this, I think a lot of people are now going to start questioning Terrence Crawford, because this is going to look soft to a lot of people. I mean, you want to talk about business decisions? This was a business decision. But the problem is, though, we had a chance at potentially getting the, quote, big money fight with Mayweather and Conor, right? Mayweather was supposedly going to cross over, and he even did the promo. Anybody remember that, when he stepped into the cage and he said, Mayweather in the octagon, what are the odds? Remember that? We thought for sure it was going to go down. But somebody by the name of Habib wasn't about to let it happen. He wanted to make sure that he fought McGregor, so he cornered Artem's boy, or Conor's boy Artem, in a hotel. Conor flew out immediately. The bus incident happened, and then everything changed from there. That was probably as close as we were going to get. And I don't know why Conor's really obsessed with this, if I'm being honest with you. He wants to continuously try and bring this out. And man, I got to be honest, I don't really understand his position with it all. I mean, at this point, Conor is fighting everybody except for Michael Chandler, or wanting to fight everybody except for Michael Chandler. The dude that he called out, does anybody remember the beginning of this year? Conor McGregor said he was coming back for International Fight Week. The opponent is Chandler. The weight is this. Then he drunk his wine, started laughing, and the fight was on. Then all of a sudden we got close to fight time, and I think McGregor legitimately woke up and realized that he was about to be in a fight. He hadn't trained for anything, and he was like, well, to hell with this. I'm ducking. I can't do this. I'm not ready. I've been too busy living the life of a bad boy bodybuilder. He was supposed to be training, and instead he was in the clubs, dicking around, getting a female to like a shot off of his chest and all this stuff that he was doing. I mean, he literally posted it on his social media, and then he expected us to believe that he had a busted toe. Come on, Brody. You know, I remember one time I came home, and my eyes were bloodshot red, and my pop had asked me what I'd been out doing. And I was just like, look, man, I'm really tired. And he's like, oh, yeah, why they kind of glossy and glazed over? I was like, man, my contacts are messed up right now. He said, boy, look at me. Do I have stupid written on my forehead? What I am getting at here is none of us have stupid written on our forehead, for one. And for two, why does Conor keep trying to make fights that he's clearly not wanting to be involved in? He was holding up 2 divisions at one point. He ran off to go fight Mayweather. He got beat up by Khabib. He's had, 1 win in his last 5 fights? He's just not there anymore the way that he used to be. He's not as hungry. And it's like he can't let go of the attention. I don't think Conor wants to fight anybody, if I'm being honest with you. I think he wants the attention, but because Terrence Crawford was coming out and saying all this on his own, it makes Conor look like he wants to have a fight when he clearly doesn't. Well, he tried to tell us, oh, Dana, no, we agreed on December and yada, yada, yada. And then Dana said, oh, the fight will happen in January and, next year. And I'm not thinking about that. And then I am thinking about that. Like this whole thing, right? I'm so sick of talking about this unnecessary man anymore. How he stays relevant in any sport is beyond me. I mean, there's been rumors flying around about Conor potentially doing a BKFC fight. Even though he's got his hand in it, there's discussions of taking his hand out of it so that way he can have a fight. At some point, man, stop. Really stop. Because right now, what Conor McGregor sounds to me is like Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. I'm going to fight you. All right, fine. Let's fight. All right, I'm going to fight you. Okay, bro, it's on. Sign the deal. I'm going to fight you. I know. Let's do it. Let's fight. Never mind. I don't really want to, bro. Like, I think I was just kind of talking and mad, and you're like really popular, and you're really popular. I mean, this is literally what it all is. McGregor's having a pissing contest with the rest of the world. This guy can't go 3 months without everybody talking about him. It's okay, bro. It's just not you anymore. I don't see where Chandler even needs to fight McGregor at this point. I don't know that he would want to. Look, McGregor fan, I know you get butthurt with this, but let's just keep it a buck. McGregor is washed. Do you know how hard it is to crawl back inside that gym and train like that? If this thing right here, if your mind is not in it 110%, it doesn't work out. How many fighters have lost a fight and after the fight they lose and they go, I'm not in this anymore. This isn't what I want anymore. You know why? They're tired, man. They're tired of getting kicked in the face. They're tired of the weight training. And it's okay to be that way. Everybody gets tired of their job at some point. McGregor's got his money. He's been in movies. He's got a record label now, obviously. He's got McGregor whiskey. He's got all this stuff that he's doing. He literally doesn't need it. What he wants is the attention. He's getting it, but not in a good way, man. I'm just saying not in a good way. All right, so MJ, he's a part of a lawsuit against NASCAR. Look, and the long and the short of it is it's basically the antitrust law thing that keeps rearing its ugly head, right? The UFC, they just had over $300 million payout because of antitrust laws from back in 2014. Those allegations were, you have made it difficult, you've monopolized this thing, and you've made it hard for fighters to go and truly be able to showcase their talents at other places. You used your power of influence. You purposely knocked other organizations. You did everything you could to make them look bad. You bullied your way into this, and that's how you're making it above everybody else. That's what the big three said about the NBA. Don't forget, Ice Cube had a lawsuit with the NBA where it was like, dude, they're bullying. In fact, Ice Cube, as a matter of fact, he met with federal lawyers about this situation. He said that the NBA was trying to use their power of influence. He said that the NBA was going to networks like TNT and trying to encourage them to not play Big Three games. He alleged that the NBA was using their power of influence to go to big-time sponsors like Coca-Cola and try to deter them from sponsoring the Big Three league. And let's not forget that N1 had a lot of very similar claims against the NBA as well. The NFL, DirecTV, Sunday Ticket, that whole thing, the market, the monopoly on it, the incredible price that people are paying for this, making it so that way it was an exclusive deal with DirecTV, forcing people to get DirecTV so that way they could watch football. And now Michael Jordan and his team are saying, look, they're bullying. They're trying to push everybody around, and they're basically doing the exact same thing. They're trying to monopolize the market, especially with the revenue shares. And what they're saying is that, hey, look, man, about 2 days before the playoffs started, it was a take it or leave it deal. Bullying. Whether you like it or not, this is the deal. You got 48 hours to decide. What are you going to do? Look, here's what I'm going to say about NASCAR. All right, because obviously this is all still alleged in terms of NASCAR, MJ, antitrust, all that stuff. I interviewed a crew member that was with Daryl Earnhardt, okay? And look, I will never forget that interview as long as I live because it was with McReynolds. And, you know, to me, it was a big deal because a really good buddy of mine is a huge NASCAR fan, right? And so I thought this will be really cool because it'll be a way for me and him to connect because a lot of the sports that I enjoy is not really his thing. But interviewing Larry McReynolds would have been a huge deal to him, right? So I was excited. And I put in a lot of research and did a lot of work. All he wanted to do was talk about his sponsorships. I mean, it was literally just the money, 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 money. See, with racing, you have to understand that weather is always a big deal because it's going to be how slick is the track. The hotter it is, the worse it is. The cooler it is, the better it is. Is there going to be any rain? And so, of course, we were talking about the weather. I was just like, hey, how's the weather there? It's nice and cool here. It'd be really great for racing, I'll tell you that much. Well, you know, it's pretty good over here, but it's been raining, and here's a stat for you, and da-da-da-da-da about the rain, and of course that puts a premium on your da-da-da-da-da, and most accidents happen here. So what you want to do is you want to head on down to your local auto store, and I mean, every question I asked was that exact same response. I mean, I couldn't get a legitimate answer out of this man about anything for anything other than what was your favorite moment in racing? I mean, that was the only time he did. And even then, he back-ended it with, well, here's what's going on, amigo. Here's what we're doing. You know, it was a nightmare of an interview to do. It really was. And I thought, I will never do an interview with a NASCAR racer, a driver, a crew member, and anything ever again. Like, they lost all privileges with me with that. And I remember very, very vividly how upset they were with the way that that interview went. And I thought to myself, every question I asked this man, he wanted to talk about sponsorships. Hell, I even asked him a couple of questions about the windows and about, that stuff. And then I tried to, okay, we got to move into like other parts here. Because at that time I was working in Kansas. And of course there was a NASCAR driver at that time that was from Emporia. So I thought this is a perfect connection. I mean, this is easy. But every question ended with sponsorship deal. And it was nauseating. What does this have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you what it has to do with. That NASCAR is about one thing and one thing only. Their bottom dollar, their sponsorships. They don't care about anything else. They ruin themselves by creating a playoff system. They had a system in place that worked out beautifully, but the ratings were going down. Why were the ratings going down? Because the interviews that you have in your markets, in your local areas where you make your money, because when these racers, when they come into town, what are they going to do? They're going to do interviews with your local radio station. They're going to do interviews with your local journalist. What are those interviews going to look like? And what is it going to sound like when you've got the pricing of tickets going up and up and up? People can no longer afford to go to your events. And every single time you're somewhere, all you want to do is, hey, I just want to thank my sponsor, Gatorade. Hey, I want to thank my sponsor, so-and-so. Hey, it's like, okay, why are you needing money then? You're literally driving around in an advertisement. Why do you, what more could you possibly need? I really don't understand what NASCAR is really all about anymore, and I don't even think they know what they are really all about anymore. How they're surviving is beyond me. They've had nothing but problems. The playoff was one of the worst things that they ever decided to do. They've had racial tension. They've tried to modernize their sport as much as they can. But the reality is I miss the Jim Rome days when he called NASCAR what he called NASCAR. I mean, I don't even view NASCAR as being a sport, to be honest with you. And more than anything, what this really amounts to is corporate greed. There is a corporate structure right now in America that is supporting this idea. I mean, hell, I got in the comment section, the other day, and I've had, I don't know how many hundreds of people respond to me because I said, look, YouTube Premium is not a luxury. It's $15 a month where I live at. You've got people right now that are working 2 jobs to pay for their homes, their mortgages, and all this other stuff. And people go, oh, well, if you can, first of all, who said I can't? Secondly, what I said was other people, because it was a discussion about whether or not you can close your phone. The amount of people that are brainwashed into corporate America blows my mind. It really does. It's literally beyond me how people view it. We've allowed it in our society. This is 100% about corporate greed and monopolies, which are supposed to be illegal. But let's be honest, nobody ever really does anything about it. If you buy something out, you just keep the name. You got loopholes. You got things that you do. You monopolize the area. You monopolize everything. You make it difficult for somebody to go anywhere else to truly show what they're capable of. I mean, I guess the best way that I can relate it is you look at Justin Fields. You look at Baker Mayfield. Now, I don't think these quarterbacks are being overly successful, but they've gone somewhere else, and the conversations about them have completely changed. And they've been able to showcase a little bit better of what they're more capable of doing. When all is said and done, the NBA has done it. The NFL has done it, whether they won that lawsuit or not. To me, they have done it. I'll bet the NBA has done it. Absolutely. I believe it. And I wouldn't be surprised if NASCAR's doing it. And who knows how long it's been going on for. And as long as we continue to allow this structure, it's never going to end. All right, real quick here. For some weird reason, this keeps being a thing. I don't know why it keeps being a thing, but it keeps being a thing. So, parlays and stuff like that. It came up with Lamar Jackson. And then, of course, there was a collegiate quarterback that people were demanding money back for his parlays that they lost and all this other BS. Folks, you've got to stop it. I interviewed a gambling agency one time because I thought I'm going to give this a chance because number one, I'm not a big gambler. I'm really not. And when I go to the casino, I have just enough discipline to walk in there with $20, stick it in a slot, and whatever happens, happens. I don't go to the blackjack table. I've only done that maybe a handful of times. I don't go to the casino but maybe once or twice a year because I've seen what it does. And after I got done with that interview with that betting agency, who I'm not going to say because I don't give a damn. I think it's somewhere in my archives, but I was never fully satisfied with it anyways. Regardless, the point is, I don't agree with it. It's too accessible. It's too easy. It's too much. And I understand that people are making their own decisions. But folks, everybody's addicted to something. I like cigarettes, man. I'm addicted to cigarettes. At one point, I was smoking 2 or 3 packs a day. The fact that I'm down to about a pack a day or so is a pretty good miracle. Everybody's addicted to something. I know I shouldn't be putting my money into that. I know it's unhealthy for me, but I keep doing it anyways, right? And it's just as much of a money pit as anything else, gambling, whatever. What I'm saying is everybody's got a vice. But I've just seen what gambling does. And Daniel O'Crunt, who invented what he then called popcorn baseball, has said that he now knows how the guy with the atom bomb feels. Look at what this has become. These people are so upset that they are DMing athletes and they're going, bro, I want my money back. Venmo me now. I want my money. You fucked me. Who? Who told you to make that bet, bro? I understand that they have got to take responsibility for their own actions. Believe me when I tell you, because they do. That's what who told you to make that bet? But this is why I don't support gambling of any kind with this stuff. It creates a mess. It really does create a mess. You can't tell me that gambling is any healthier for you than what I do with smoking cigarettes, man. Well, that's going to give you cancer. Bro, go check your wallet. Have you seen how many people have lost their homes, their wives, their children to fantasy sports? Have you seen this? It's insane. These people, man, there's videos of dudes that are just lined up in Vegas, man. They're like these kind of warehouse deals, right? And they're just in there. And they're all in there in their backpacks and everything else. And, man, they're all watching the game. And you got people cheering and other people mad and all that stuff. And that's where the comment section comes from. We're calling people bums. You're losing out on gambling. There's a reason why the guy who was about to call the game or call the fight or whatever the case may be is not allowed to make a prediction. Because he's going to have insider information, which makes it illegal. Because they meet with the fighters, they meet with the trainers, they meet with the coaches and big-time players. They go over game film. They do all this. They see all of this stuff, every bit of it. They have insider information. It's illegal. You've got Lamar Jackson having to try and explain, hey, look, we're not really allowed to gamble, man. We can't, and the thing is, as NFL players, you can't do it in your facility. You can't do it on any game that you know about. But again, you have insider information. You've played against the team, and you've played against the other team, so you know what they look like. It's insider information. It's a problem. Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame because of gambling. Now, he claims he never bet on his own team. And I'm not saying whether or not it's right or wrong. God rest the man. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that's how it is. And what I'm really saying is it's hypocritical. They use these athletes to advertise gambling. They want people to gamble. It's not hard. All you got to be is 18, have a debit card, download an app. That's it, my man. Now you can put in as much as you want, and they promise you all this money back. Oh, my picks are the best. Oh, get on this parlay. Oh, man, I'm telling you. You're treading dangerous ground. I don't think it's going to work out. I think at some point, I mean, come on, speaking of, and we're about to touch on this real quick, but that whole thing that happened with Sluka and UNLV, obviously it's kind of forgotten about given what we saw Hodge do, right? But what did he have, 150 and then, in the air and then another 100 something on the ground? It's kind of forgotten about, but don't forget that a local casino in Vegas said, we'll put up the 100K, bro. You don't think that wouldn't present a problem? You don't think that that's not opening up Pandora's box? That's an issue, a real serious issue. Speaking of ULV, they got Q's. Look, one of my concerns about Syracuse and Georgia Tech was the run game from Georgia Tech, which for 3.5 quarters, Syracuse dominated Georgia Tech, and they shut down the running game, and Tech really wasn't allowed to do anything. Now, they almost gave that game away, and I didn't like the way that they finished that football game because, and I said this about Alabama, you start out that way, you need to finish it that way. Like I said, I was more impressed with Georgia, even though they lost that football game, than I was with Alabama. I was more impressed with them because of the resiliency that they showed. I hated the way Alabama finished that football game. If I'm an Alabama fan, I'm happy for the win, but I have 1,000,001 questions about my team this year. I really do. Look, I think right now UNLV is in a very unique position because on the surface right now, it looks like maybe they chose the wrong quarterback initially. And they have a really strong run game. And Syracuse's run defense, look, the defense as a whole this year has been very hit and miss. They'll have like one really good quarter and then another really bad quarter. Like I said, gave up the huge lead that they had to Georgia Tech. That was horrendous. Offensively, they're one-dimensional. They don't have a running game. It's all Kyle McCord in the pass game, which I'm not going to say Grande and Pina and these other guys are not good because they are. But I don't know that it's good enough to get past a team that so far has shown that they have some sort of a defense. And right now, it's pretty much UNLV and Boise State to this point in the season about who potentially is going to get into the CFP, right? Look, I think the stronger overall team is UNLV as opposed to Boise State. And I think it is because the game has shifted so much right now in quarterbacks and what they can do on the ground versus what they can do in the air. We don't talk about quarterbacks much anymore as great throwers. I mean, you still have Patrick Mahomes, you still have Aaron Rodgers in the league, but it's almost like that day and age is completely over. It's like a quarterback, pretty much, if they get 200 yards on the ground and 200 yards in the air and 80 yards on the ground, they've had a great game. Jane Daniels, to me, is resemblance of one of the last of the truly great passers, at least that's been coming up lately in the NFL. I like Lamar Jackson better than people think, but he's been in the league for a little while now, right? It's few and far in between now. It's not what it was. And the way that it's shifting, especially with college football, we've almost pretty much reverted back to the 1970s with the option. Really what it's going to amount to is which team has the best defense and run game and then enough balance with the pass to be able to get you to where you want to go. And the fact that Syracuse doesn't have much of a run game to speak of, I would pick UNLV to win this football game. And I think that because they have it balanced out with their quarterback, UNLV does, at least for the moment, Boise State doesn't have that. I think UNLV is a better contender to get in than Boise State. I'm just saying. Mizzou is going to be playing A&M this weekend, this Saturday, I should say. I think I like Mizzou in that game. I'm not really impressed with them. A&M's a little bit more battle-tested, But I think Mizzou wins in a close one. I'm just saying. All right, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. The show is Underground Sports. We are live. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. And wherever you're listening to podcasts, take your device to play Underground Sports by Drew Duncan. Hell, you can Google Underground Sports by Drew Duncan. I'm going to pop right on up, Broham. Guys, I am on WBFR Radio Monday and Friday, 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, you can download the HHN TV app, a.k.a. the Hip Hop Network, and find my program there as well. In the meantime, your local programming is next. Don't you dare touch that dial.